Just want to say thank you. It is almost 10 o'clock, not quite, but we're going to go ahead and kind of say hi. It's been quite a minute since I have done a live, or even, to be honest, since I've been doing tutorials. Sometimes life gets in the way of creative endeavors. So of course we had to shift focus this year, and I had to focus a little bit more on my intimate family, not necessarily my tribe. So hopefully you guys are along for the ride still, and we're gonna get back into the full swing of things. I'm gonna start doing more lives and more tutorials for you guys. But thank you for joining me here. As you can see, I'm looking in the reverse here. We are just gonna keep it casual. I've got my, hey, go Bucks. I've got my shirt on here, and I think I'm gonna grab my apron and we'll talk about what we're gonna do. Before I get started, I just wanna say, Aunt Becky, I love you. Happy holidays, I miss you. Sending love to family, everybody out there. Now I do have my laptop set up over here so that I can try to read your chats that come in, because I cannot see them on my phone, which is recording me right now. So give me just a second and I'm gonna pull this over. And remember, everyone, this is live. So anything can happen. I think my last live, one of my curtain rods fell down, so you never know what can happen. So let me grab my computer and bring it a little bit closer here so I can read your chats. Let's see here. Whew, I don't even know if I can see that. My eyes are getting old. In a few months, I'm gonna be 50. And it seems like the last year my eyesight has gone to crap. So let's see here. We're welcoming all of our friends. I see lots of you getting on here. Good morning, happy holidays. I see Karen and Blue Jay, Sweet RX, hello love. All right, I see everybody joining us here. We've got quite a few coming in. Awesome. All right, so if you guys are new, I just wanted to say welcome. I am Pam Kennedy, otherwise known as Pamela Dean Kennedy, but I am Pam Kennedy Bakes, and thank you for being with us. I have been a professional baker for years, custom baker. I started out in the cake industry and made my way over to cookies and fell in love with cookies. So I do lots of different varieties of baked goods, but cookies is what I really love to teach. Everybody's pretty into sourdough right now, but definitely cookies is a love, and right now I am riding that wave. I love decorating cookies right now. So in today's live, and you'll have to forgive me, I'm really rusty, so I might ramble a little bit. Forgive me, I'm getting back into the swing of things and getting used to chatting with you guys and teaching again. So, but what we're gonna do today is I'm gonna make all 3 of my no chill, no spread cookie dough recipes. So we're gonna have our regular butter vanilla, I'm gonna do my chocolate fudge, and then we're gonna do my gingerbread. So hopefully you guys can reference this and troubleshoot if you're having a problem. Watch it 1 or 2 times before you attempt to make it yourself. But I'm gonna try to focus on a little bit of why we're doing what we're doing, so that you can learn to read your dough as opposed to following just the recipe and trying to go exactly the process. I want you to learn how to read your dough so that you know what's happening and when it's happening, so that you can play around with it and make changes to it yourself. So these recipes are just a really good backbone, skeleton structure of recipes for your cookie doughs. From here, you can add little tweaks and designs and make it your own. So in regards to flavor, I use 4 teaspoons of butter vanilla emulsion. Now, you can mix it up. You can use some almond, you can use some cake batter, you can play around with your flavors. These are a base. Now from here, I want you to play around with it. I want you to discover your likes and dislikes. You know, this is just the basic structure. From here, it's a canvas for you to paint on, so to speak. So let me check our conversations here. This is a little awkward. I guess I'll figure out how to get maybe my, maybe if I move my laptop underneath my phone. So I just want to say, if Chauncey Spencer, my right-hand gal on the Cookie Tribe on Facebook, our group, if you are from YouTube right now and you're not familiar with us on Facebook, look, YouTube and Facebook, we go back and forth. So on Facebook, join the Cookie Tribe. That is the best group of creative individuals I have ever met. So supportive, so encouraging, so excited and enthusiastic. So if you are tired of sarcasm on some of those groups and snotty remarks and people just not really being helpful, being more condescending, then try a different group. Join our tribe. Our tribe is, we shut that kind of negativity down faster than you can blink. So come join us. We will love you and support you and educate you and help you in any way that we can. So Chauncey Spencer, back to my right-hand gal on the Cookie Tribe. So guys, she has started making these adorable little scribes, and she even made me a pen. And I can't even begin to tell you how cute and how perfect is that. All of my stuff is like this rose gold kind of color. And man, did she nail it or what? Oh, it's so cute. I haven't used my scribes yet, but I will be. So let me see if I can move this chat a little closer just so I can maybe try to answer some of your questions while we're going along here. So lots of good mornings. The tribe is the best group ever. Thank you. Yes, I agree. I love the tribe. I turned 65 next month. Karen, ooh, happy birthday, 65. That's a nice one. I hope I will see 65 and more. Let's see. All right. Oh, Nancy's wanting to know about royal icing consistency. Well, Nancy, I have videos on consistency, but we will also get into that. Right now, we're going to do our doughs, and then hopefully my next live, I will do, maybe we can take a vote. What would you like my next live to be on? Now, if I don't get to any of your questions on here during the live, know that afterwards, I will shut this down and I will go straight to all of these questions, and I'm going to read through them and I will try to answer. Please feel free to ask all of your questions, okay? But right now, let me grab my apron and we're going to get started making some dough, and we'll talk about our process. Now, if you want to grab a copy or copy and paste or write down really fast the ingredients and follow along, or grab a notepad. Now, on my YouTube channel, I have all three of these recipes listed. Now, if you go into the description of the video and open up that little box big for the description, you will see the itemized list of ingredients that I'm going to be going over. Now, for the process, you can either follow the link to my Etsy site, and you can, for a very small fee, you can print off. I typed it all out in a very clear document for you, all of the process and the method. Or you can certainly copy and paste in the description of the video if you'd like as well. So know that on my Etsy, in my Etsy shop, I have all of these completely written out along with their processes, and it's just a quick, instant download. It's just a Word document, but it's very clearly written so that you can easily follow each step And then there's also a few little tips and stuff that I wrote out in this just to make it a little different for you. But I have a bundle where you can actually purchase a binder that has all of my recipes, including the QR code at the top of each recipe that will send you directly to the tutorial video for that recipe. So if you want a cookie try binder with all of these recipes that I share with the printed out methods and recipes, go to my Etsy page or Etsy shop and check them out. I also have lots of our tools on there, the cookie cold, the dusty slug, all of that fun stuff on there. All right, so let me go get my apron and then we will actually start mixing some dough. All right, so like I said, I'm gonna keep this super casual. I am not right now currently baking. I'm not custom baking, let's put it that way. The stuff that you have seen on occasion recently is either repeat stuff or it's just been fun little projects for my family or really, really close friends, stuff that I'm just messing around with, or even just stuff for a tutorial, for content. But, so I get adjusted here, sorry. But what I'm baking today, the dough that I'm using here, I am not gonna be baking off for a custom order. It's gonna all go towards a really special event. So this special event is my husband, after 38 and a half years with Publix supermarkets, is retiring. So there is a gathering and there will be fun, and I'm going to share these cookies with everyone, and hopefully they will get to be enjoyed, and it's certainly a reason to celebrate. So it brought me out of my break here because I was just taking a little bit of a rest and a break from doing all of this material. But this was a very good reason to come out of that rest and get some cookies made for you guys. And I want to make a lot of them. So here we go. I'm going to go ahead and start. Now, if you can see behind me, welcome to my kitchen. This is a small section of my kitchen, but you can see part of my kitchen. I went ahead and to save us some time, I wanted to go ahead and measure out those ingredients. Now, know that a scale, a kitchen scale, is always going to be your most accurate form of measuring when it comes to your baked goods. In professional industry, we don't measure by cups, we measure by weight. Everything is weight and volume. So with this, I went ahead and I scaled out all of my stuff, making sure that I had everything that I needed all ready for you guys so that we can just kind of speed it up a little bit. The only time I'm gonna really need to walk away from the camera again is when I go over to my refrigerator to get my cold eggs. Now I have my eggs all measured out, but they're in the refrigerator staying nice and cold. So that will be the only minute that you'll see me step away for a second. So let's get started. Now, for starters, gotta love Rubbermaid. No plug. So what we want to do is, in order to make a yummy cookie, we're going to create, as we're going along, emulsions. We're going to take ingredients and we're going to really emulsify them and blend them and make them unified before going to the next step. The goal with your cookie and baking is that you have all of the ingredients properly distributed throughout all of your product. So consistency is key. If you have the same method, the exact same measurements every single time, then you can make little changes here and there, and you can really watch to see if they make a difference. If you're not consistent and if you don't have the same method every time, it's really hard to tell this way or that when you have a problem, what's actually causing it. So let's get started. I have my KitchenAid. Now it's an artisan. So I love the artisans. They're a little bit smaller, but yet this one's a 6-quart. Yeah, it's a 6-quart. So this holds my batch of dough really well, but know that this is a really big batch of dough. Yes, you can cut it in half if you want to and only make half. All of my recipes are like that. They can be halved, or they can be doubled or tripled or quadrupled. But here's the thing. If you're not going to make a full batch, ask yourself why. Is it a cost issue? That I can understand. But if it's to save time, think a little bigger than just now. What if you made a whole batch, divided it in half and only used half of it, but you can thin out, wrap in plastic, and freeze the rest for later and save time later. So, can the recipes be halved? Absolutely. But I say, go ahead and make the full batch. Use what you want to use, freeze the rest, and be ahead for the next time. Or go ahead and make a ton of cookies and just have extras in the freezer so that anytime you have that last minute little gift idea, you can grab some cookies out of the freezer. They're already done. All you have to do is thaw them and ice them. So little tips like that. Yes, this makes a lot of cookies, but if you do it one time, you can kind of save yourself some time if you're not going to use it all at once. Now, in order to make a really good cookie, sugar cookie, we start with butter. Now this is 1 pound or 4 sticks of unsalted butter. All right, here we go. Let's have that unsalted butter talk, because I'm pretty sure I'm gonna have lots of comments about how I only use salted. I use salted and it's fine. Yes, use salted butter. If that's what you have, use salted butter. But no, the reason why I always use unsalted butter is because I am a control freak. I want to, in the best way, I want consistency. So different brands of butter have different salt content. They all tend to, each brand has their own recipe, so to speak, and each brand decides whether or not they're going to add coloring or certainly salt. And I like to know exactly what I'm going to get every single time. And I like to buy butter. Butter's expensive, so I like to buy it on sale. So do yourself a favor, or at least if you want to simplify your life, just get the basic and then add what you want later. So I'm just always afraid if I use salted butter, I'm gonna go way too far salty and it'll be a huge turnoff. So you wanna make sure that you have consistency. So I personally just use unsalted butter. I do buy salted butter, but I use it in my butter bell at room temperature. But I like to control the salt content and know exactly what I put in there. So we're gonna add our unsalted butter, and then to it, we're gonna add our sugars. Now, I like to use a combination of brown sugar and white sugar because they have two totally different makeup, in the sense that brown sugar has molasses added to it. And it's more than just adding a dollop of molasses. It's been mixed with the molasses. So that molasses has a little bit of moisture to it, and it breaks down that brown sugar a little bit and emulsifies and makes it even a little bits of brown sugar a little more moist. So this adds depth of flavor, and it absolutely adds more moisture to your cookies. But It kind of got a little too dense if I added all brown sugar. So, thus 1 cup of regular sugar, 1 cup of brown sugar. And we're gonna add that to our 1 pound or 4 sticks of unsalted butter. Now this is where our first emulsion is going to start to happen. I'm gonna use my paddle attachment because you wanna beat those things. We're not trying to fluff them and incorporate and slice air into them. So we don't wanna use a whip. We wanna use a paddle. We're just gonna mix them. It's almost as if you were using your fingers a lot. Paddle is more like a hand, using your hands and your fingers almost like kneading. So I'm gonna turn this on and we're gonna mix this and cream it. Now that is gonna cream, let's see, now here's the thing about KitchenAids, okay? Now this is why I would love to teach you guys how to read what's happening with your stuff, how to read what's happening with your environment, how it's affecting your ingredients, how your machine is working. So now with my KitchenAid, I noticed my speed, I'm on number 2 right now. But when I cream my butter and sugar together, I like to have it on number 3. Oh, actually it goes 2, 4, 6. So on number 4. Now we want to do this for about 5 minutes. Now, you can time it or you can learn to see when it's ready. Because will it always take the full 5 minutes? Not necessarily. Sometimes it may take more, sometimes it's a little bit less. But if you cream for 5 minutes, you'll be good. But I will show you what I mean because it changes completely. So let's pause this for a second and you can see, I will show you closely. Now, if you see this texture, it's grainy. You can see the grains, I think, even from the camera. It's probably pretty oily too with all that butter. So we're gonna keep emulsifying. Now what happens is that butter is doing a couple of things. The moisture is melting the sugar. So the sugar gets a little wet and it emulsifies with that butter, the moisture in the butter. But it's also, as we're mixing, that paddle is beating those crystals into smaller crystals. Now, the smaller it is, the more it can disperse in with the flour and into every portion of that cookie you're going to be serving. And that's the goal. Now, I like to, this is not OSHA approved. Do not stick your spatula in your mixer while it's going. Don't look. I'm not doing it. Don't call OSHA. But, I know. Don't break a finger. Don't break your utensils. But, scrape it down as you need. Now, while this is going, let's read some of these things here. Let's see. Oh, who did that beautiful pen and scribe? Oh, Chauncey Spencer, our second admin on the Cookie Tribe. She also has lots of her pages and stuff. Well, she tags. So, Chauncey Spencer, thank you. You guys, she is an amazing asset on the tribe. She's a dynamite mom with amazing kids. And man, is she talented. So check her out. Check all of her socials out. I don't think, I forget the name. Chauncey, please put your link down below. So I forget the Joy Dash. Oh, I don't remember all of your Instagram and stuff. But she'll link her stuff down below. So you guys should definitely follow her. And certainly as she gets her shop up and running, you guys should check her out. She has some amazing stuff. Let's see. Oh my goodness. Hi everybody. Oh my goodness, from Ontario, Canada. We've got friends all over the place with us. Thank you guys. All right. Now, likewise, ooh, we're almost done over here. It's creaming up nicely. We're gonna look for a nice, soft, lighter colored fluff is our goal here. But while I'm talking to you guys, so if you are currently from our Facebook group, and this is your first time joining me on my YouTube channel, welcome. Thank you for joining us here. This is where my hub, where you can find all of my recipes, all of my tutorials, all of my little shorts. So, but a lot of them are now available only if you subscribe. So on that YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. If you want to sign up and be a VIP member, you get strict access to all kinds of materials. And yes, those VIPs and subscriptions will be bumped up this year. I'm going to be doing a lot of fun on them and hopefully getting a little bit more interaction with you guys on there. All right, it looks like this is about done. Now, oh my goodness, look, fluff. Now it's much more fluffy, light. Those crystals are much smaller. So now while we were doing this, remember our butter is room temperature and we added our sugar. Now we just sped it up to number 4 and we're beating the heck out of it. So we've created, not only is it melting because of the moisture, but it's also warming up, and butter melts when it warms up. So it's now time to add our eggs, but I add cold eggs because I like that now that we've made this kind of buttery, loose, soft, warm, buttery mixture. Now we're gonna add cold eggs and kind of tighten it up a little bit to give us that better texture so that we don't spread in the oven. Sometimes you get spread because your room is too warm, your butter was too warm, your dough was too warm. So we're gonna try to prevent that by adding our cold egg to our already room temperature mixed, beaten up fluff here, creamed together mixture. So, pardon me for 1 second while I run over and grab our first batch of eggs, and then we'll talk about egg. I like egg. All right, so I have with my egg, this is 120 grams of cold egg. Now, in order to get 120 grams of egg, you may need 2 very large eggs or 3 eggs, scramble them up, and then weigh out your 120 grams. Now, I ended up, because we're making 3 batches of dough, and it's roughly 2 very large eggs per batch. So I took 7 eggs, mixed them all up, scrambled them up, cracked them, scrambled them up with nothing else. Then I weighed out for each one of my recipes. So to me, that's the easiest way. Or sometimes, hey, no judgment. If you're in a rush or you're in a pinch, or heck, you just don't want that hassle of cracking all of those eggs, or you're doing a bunch of baking, buy the eggs in the carton. Look, no shade. Sometimes they have preservatives, but hey, they work in a pinch. No judgment here, no judgment. We use what we have to, okay? But these are my eggs, and I'm now gonna add them a little slower. So I'm gonna turn that mixer on to number 2 for me. And I'm just gonna add in all of this egg, but I'm gonna add it really slowly. Now we add it slowly because these are 2 totally different temperatures and they are 2 totally different textures. consistencies. When you're combining consistencies, you have to go slowly, otherwise they will break and they'll slide around on each other and they won't mix as well. So we just add a little bit at a time until it stops sliming around, because when you add your egg, it looks pretty slimy in there and it slips around for a while. So wait for it to stop slipping around and add a little bit more. Now, to save time, in my egg mixture, I went ahead and I added my 4 teaspoons of butter vanilla emulsion. Now, you can use extracts or emulsions, but I really think emulsions give you that more professional quality. Extracts are made with alcohol base and they evaporate out. So that's good for some things, but I think for our cookies, I really prefer the water-based emulsions. They have just a little more heft to them, and I feel like they just don't bake out and get as soft as normal vanilla. But by all means, if you want to use real vanilla bean, use real vanilla bean paste. If you want to use real, if you want to use bourbon, use bourbon. But this is just a base. But when I'm doing different flavors, like let's say I want to throw in some little rainbow jimmies into this batch and I want to make rainbow confetti cookies. What I would do is I would only do 3 teaspoons of my butter emulsion, and then I would add that last one, but I would use something like maybe cake batter emulsion, something a little more fun to go with those jimmies. So that's how you tweak these. You kind of make them your own. If you wanted to add toasted ground up almonds, add a little bit of that almond extract into it as well, or add, an almond emulsion. There's lots of different ways you can flavor these. So I added my egg, and all we really need to do is just make sure it's incorporated. Now at this stage, you really don't have to worry about over-mixing. Over-mixing is not really going to happen right now. But we're going to turn it off. And now we're going to scrape it all down because we're going to be adding our flour. All of our dry goods. So I'm just going to scrape off this paddle to the best of my abilities, which won't be that good, but close enough. There we go. Gonna detach this so that you guys can see. And I'm using my tiny little spatula here, and I should probably grab my larger one. Yo ho ho. Here we go. Much better. So what I like to do with all of this, my wet ingredients, using my finger here, wipe that off. I always have my shop towels. All right, so I like to kind of scrape it all down towards the middle of my bowl, if you can see that. Now what that will do is it'll actually, when I go to put my flour in, it's gonna go around the sides down towards the bottom. Less time mixing, the more incorporated it is. So you do want to mix this a certain amount of time so that everything gets incorporated. But with cookies and with flour products, you want to make sure not to mix too much so that it doesn't get too tough. But I think that step right there tends to panic a lot of bakers. Look, this recipe is very forgiving, so I'm going to show you exactly what I do and the timing of it so that you don't panic and be left being very curious. Did I mix too much? Am I not enough? Oh my God, am I going to get spread? So follow along with me. Now, this is our flour, and it's now if you were to fluff it up and scoop it, level it off, it's around 7.5 cups. But we don't want to measure that way because every flour has a different density, and that's measuring volume. But look what happens if you tap this. All of a sudden that volume drops. So how are you supposed to judge volume if a simple shake can change it? You weigh it. The weighing doesn't lie. So in here, I have 1,010 grams of all-purpose flour. Now, there's bleached and unbleached. Now, unbleached has more ability to absorb, and I personally feel like it makes almost a tougher cookie. I really prefer the bleached flour. When the process of bleaching the flour chemically versus naturally, it makes the flour and the gluten a little smoother, silkier. So I feel like this makes a tender cookie, a more tender, soft cookie, the actual bleached all-purpose flour. Does that make sense? Okay. So in here, I have 3 teaspoons of baking powder and 1 teaspoon of kosher salt. Now, you can use regular table salt, you can use sea salt, Himalayan pink salt, but my favorite is kosher salt. That is a staple in my house. I use it religiously. Now, why I use it specifically in my cookies is because I happen, with the kind of background that I have, I like that artisan, little salty, sweet, where you're biting into something and all of a sudden you have that little burst of salt in your mouth somewhere unexpectedly, and it makes your mouth salivate. Well, I like that. Some people don't dig it, but I'm the kind of person, if I get a little caramel, I like a little sea salt sprinkled on top for contrast. So I like that, and so I incorporated it into my base recipe. But you feel free. If you don't like that, you don't like that little burst of salt, and you'd prefer for it to be more unified and softer, then you go ahead and use finer sea salt, finer regular table salt. But I like the kosher salt. I get a lot of compliments on it, but you make your own decision, you make your own judgment, and you make this recipe your own, okay? So, a lot of times I have seen where if you do not properly mix your baking powder in with that flour, you will have inconsistencies in your dough. So you'll have all these beautiful cookies, and then randomly there'll be one that has like a wonky arm all of a sudden. You know why? Because you didn't mix thoroughly your flour with your leavening, which is your baking powder. Now remember, I use baking powder because baking powder causes puff, not spread. Baking soda causes spread. Powder causes puff. So I do that because I like the tenderness, and almost gives that little lamination of layers in between the sides. I love that. So that's why I use it. But yes, there's recipes out there that call for all kinds of ingredients, all kinds of things like cornstarch, sour cream, cream cheese, baking powder, baking soda, no baking powder whatsoever. I have worked and worked and worked recipes, and this is just the best I've come up with for me. This is what I like. You find out what you like. But hopefully my recipes will aid you in at least getting to those next steps. So I dumped in all of that flour. It was 1,010 grams of all-purpose bleached flour. Now I'm going to give it a shake. It had my 3 teaspoons of baking powder and 1 teaspoon of kosher kosher salt. So I'm gonna give it a shake, and now all that flour is kind of settled around that mound that I had. Now, if I were to just put this lid down and start this, we'd all be wearing this flour. So here's what we're gonna do. I have my industrial roll of saran wrap here, and I like to take a piece of it, put this off to the side, and I make a skirt. And it's a clear skirt, so I get to watch what's happening. But guess what? I'm not gonna waste this plastic. Don't come after me, all you environmentalists. Please don't. I'm gonna reuse this exact same piece of plastic to then wrap my finished dough in while it's resting. So don't come at me. I'm just using this as a skirt and to wrap my dough later. But could you use a tea towel? Yes. You wanna know why I don't? I'll tell you why. I don't use a tea towel because I have animals. I have dogs. And I don't have a separate washing machine for my tea towels, so to me to lay a towel over this, I'm kind of worried about, like, would there be fluff in it? I might get a dog hair. So I like to be extra cautious because, of course, I try to be as professional as possible. Clean hands, certainly try to reuse as much as I can, save waste, save space, save money, save time. So here we go. And be thoughtful of what you're doing. So we lock that top because now we're gonna have a lot of dough in here. So go ahead and lock your top so it doesn't flip up and down on you. And then you're gonna start low and slow mixing your dough. So now I start it, and you're gonna wait to hear. Remember, read what's happening. I want you to read what's happening around you. Listen for your machine. When it starts to struggle and scream, give it more power. There we go. And you wait for it to whine a little bit more and kick it up just a smidge more. Now we're waiting until it's mixed and it's coming away from the sides. And it looks like it is right about there. Yay. Oh, I forgot my scraper. Excuse me 1 second. Very important. All right, let's see here. Now, I like to take the skirt off. We're gonna finish doing the rest of this by hand. Now, lift this up. We clean our machine off. So I like to take my hands, and I'm running this. Lots of flour gets kicked up all over the place, so I'm just taking my fingers and I'm running all that flour back into my bowl, getting all these little bits off of my paddle, down into this bowl. And now we have, and you can see it stuck a little at the top just because my paddle wasn't reaching, but down here you can see it started coming away clean. And that's what you really want to look for. But you're going to incorporate all of those bits together. So I take my bowl scraper, and this is just an old scraper. Please don't ask me for the link. It is one of my old, it's probably 25 years old, maybe 20 years old. I've had these scrapers, and I can't even find them online anymore. So if anybody knows where to find these really nice bowl scrapers, let me know. I've been looking. They're the best. But there we go. We're gonna put all of this together down here. And now we're gonna use our hands. So I had I have a granite countertop, nothing fancy, nothing too fancy. We're just gonna massage and knead, and I'm just gonna knead it a few times. I'm gonna make sure that all those pieces, and as you can see, even though this is early on in the game here, it's not sticky. Do you see that? Look, it's not, it's already starting to emulsify. Why? Because we did all of those steps in between at the right time. So it's already doing exactly what we want it to, which is soaking into all that flour and creating that dough. That luscious, beautiful dough that's gonna let us handle it and play with it and work with it. But, so I have an artist background, and yeah, I went to school for art. So I kind of do some things to my dough that I realized is like what you do with clay. Do I have any potters out there? Do I have any clay enthusiasts? So for me, I want all of my ingredients to be so close together that they have no choice but to mesh and melt into each other. So in order to do that, you have to remove air and also compress your dough together. How do I do that? Here we go. Just like a potter throwing that clay down on a wheel. I feel like this gives me a really good consistency. And if it's a little softer than I like, I give it a little bit more of a knead. If it's a little too mushy, you just simply knead it a little bit more, providing you already used the cold eggs, so you don't have to worry about the heat. But I do this and I slam it down a few times until I get what looks like this. It starts after you slam it and roll it, a few times. It starts really getting smooth. It absolutely doesn't stick at all. Not sticky whatsoever. So that's what I want you to look like. This is what it should look like. You should be able to manipulate it. It shouldn't be a mess. It should be a big, fun Play-Doh-like ball. So we're gonna shape this just like so, right? Now, I'm gonna wrap it. So I'm gonna take that same piece of plastic that I am not wasting. Don't come after me. I'm not wasting plastic. All right, here we go. So now we get to roll it up. Now I rest my dough. Let's talk about resting. Resting happens at room temperature. Because now I rest this for at least 1 to 3 hours. Now at that 3rd hour, you better be planning on doing one of 2 things. Well, one of 3 things. Either you're about to bake it off, roll it out and bake it off, or you need to be preparing it to either go into the refrigerator for the day, for up to 3 days, or into the freezer for up to 3 to 6 months. And we can talk about how you do that if you want to either cut this in half and save half for later, or if you're wanting to take this entire, you're just baking, getting ahead, and you just want to make this dough and freeze it for later. Now, I have wrapped up my dough. Okay, where are all my friends? What are we supposed to do to our dough for good luck? Come on, let me see those comments. I want to see all my friends comment on there. Who's familiar with what my next step is right now? Does anybody know what we do? Yes, we do. I see somebody. Felicia, we slap it. We slap it for good luck. Why? I don't know. It just feels good. It's all nice and smooth. We love it. We love it. It's like, it's hard to resist, almost like a little baby's bottom. It's so hard. You just want to go. I love it. Slap that baby for good luck. So, now if you wanted to take this and save it and not bake it today, you can after it has rested for 1 to 3 hours, after that, at the very least, let it rest for an hour at room temperature. Then take your portion and flatten it out inside of a Ziploc bag. And if you flatten it out, it warms back up to a temperature that you can roll it easier and faster. Plus, it saves huge space. I mean, they're really thin and you can stack them in your freezer or in your refrigerator very easily. And you just cut them away and they come right out and you can start rolling your dough out. Really good time saver. There are some of those really big 5-gallon Ziploc bags that you can take an entire batch of dough and roll out each batch and just stack them in your freezer and get ahead for that holiday season or for that party or event. Really good stuff. So I am now smacking it as much as I can. Going to let this dough sit off to the side and rest, and we'll now move on to our chocolate. Now let's see, do any of you have some questions for me in between? Let's take a little bit of a questions. Let's see. Oh yeah, people, yep, you guys, yes, room temperature butter. So I like to, okay, let's talk about the structure of butter. Imagine a stick of butter out of the refrigerator and imagine a stick of butter at room temperature. Now our goal is to take that butter and emulsify it, make a whole new conglomerate or almost a whipped combined entity. And you can't do that with a cold stick of butter. It just won't happen. Those fats just won't incorporate properly. So definitely the warm or room temperature butter, not melted, because then for some reason, some of those structures and in the fats kind of break down if you melt it, and they dry out and they don't like to come back together very well. So my suggestion, just that, and room temperature can vary. We're talking from 68 degrees to like 76. So it can be anywhere sort of in between there and it'll work just fine. Just know if, you saw when I was handling that dough and it really wasn't limp and floppy or sticky. If your dough is limp, floppy, sticky, and it doesn't feel like Play-Doh, go back to the drawing board, figure out what you did wrong. Maybe you need to knead it some more. Now, people are so scared to over knead their dough, but you saw how much I worked that dough. It's very forgiving. It needs a certain amount of structure built in order to hold that shape so it doesn't flatten out on you. So definitely work with that dough, get it to, before you wrap it up, make sure it feels good, make sure it's getting smooth, make sure when you slam it down, it's starting to get that creamy, unified texture to it, and make sure it's not sticky. If it is, check a couple of things. Do you need to knead it more? Did you add all of your ingredients properly? Or is it really warm? Or do you have super hot hands? I run into that a lot. I have extremely hot hands. Ask my husband. So, and I will melt buttercream like nobody's business. I am one of those decorators that would have to keep my buttercream bags on cooler packs next to me on towels so that I, or put my hands on the cooler packs periodically, because I will melt it like the pits of heck. So my hands get pretty hot when I work, especially when I'm creating and working. All right, now, because welcome to the wonderful world of professional baking, where we do not clean in between everything we bake. In the professional world, we kind of go, all right, well, the chocolate will overpower the vanilla, so next you do the chocolate after the vanilla. So we're gonna just go straight ahead. Look, I still have bits on this, but all of that's gonna get completely mixed up into our bowl and into our next dough, and you're never gonna see it. So save time and your dish pan hands. You do not have to. If you start with your lightest flavor first and then go to your most saturated flavors, you won't kind of, you won't contaminate your dough with all those different flavors. And you won't have to mix or wash in between. Anyway, all right, on to our next one. All right, so now we have our chocolate. When I created my recipes, look, there are a million cookie recipes out there, and we're all so similar. We're all this close to being the same, but we have little tweaks and differences that we found, for whatever reason, worked for us. So, hey, at the end of the day, if these don't work for you, and you've tried them and you've reached out and we've tried to troubleshoot, guess what? There's lots of other recipes you could try too. So that doesn't mean that you won't find success out there. So, but certainly I have found that these recipes give really consistent results. So fortunately, we have a huge tribe and a community. So if you are having some problems with these recipes, specifically mine, please reach out to the Cookie Tribe, reach out to us on YouTube, and we'll try to walk you through it. I mean, I'm doing this to help you guys. So if you're having a problem, reach out, communicate, contact Chauncey, contact me, contact some of our, wonderful experts on our panels that we have on the group. All right, so next verse, same as the first. Now, I tried to make all of my recipes very similar. Even though they're very different tasting, the process and a lot of the ingredients are very unified, consistent, easy to remember, very little variation from each other except where necessary. So, again, high yielding recipe. Yes, it can be cut in half, but why do that? Just make the whole recipe and save some for later. So I have 1 pound of unsalted butter, room temperature. I have 1 cup of regular sugar, 1 cup of that brown sugar with that yummy molasses background flavor in there. Now you can use light or dark. It does not matter. It did not give me crazy results either way. And to be honest, I liked the texture of the lighter brown sugar better than the dark. Just saying. But what did I say? Make this yours. I really hope you get a grasp through my teachings that you control these recipes. Once you learn how to read your ingredients properly, the sky's the limit. Then you can test and play and see what you want to do and think through the process before you try it, and hopefully maybe figure out if you think it's a good idea or not, or if it would work or not prior to, or at least get an idea of the right questions to ask before trying. So again, we're gonna lower this. We're gonna cream these together. We're gonna let it take as long as it takes, up to 5 minutes sometimes less. And then this particular recipe has a little bit of a difference in it. Now in this one, we're adding in our dry, we'll have cocoa powder, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But let's get through this part where we're now taking our chocolate. I have all my containers strewn about here, trying to clean up a little bit. All right, while that is creaming, how about we take a look at our message board here and see what's going on. I froze the dough. Now do I put it in the fridge and then let it come to room temperature? Okay, so here's my thing. The thicker that piece of dough is that's frozen, the more likely it's better to thaw it in the refrigerator overnight first, then bring it out to the counter. But you can do it either way. This dough is tough and it is very forgiving. So if you want to yank that stuff out, leave it on the counter. If it's too thick, let's say you forgot to flatten it out and you just threw the whole thing in a Ziploc and put it right in the freezer. Did you know, even frozen, you can take it out, unwrap it, take a sharp knife and chunk it up, and it will thaw faster. So you can do that too. I have even taken, while it was still wrapped in the plastic, a warm, damp dishcloth that was wrung out, and I've wrapped that plastic wrapped dough in that warm washcloth, and that worked really well too. So it just depends on your environment, how long it'll really honestly take to thaw and, to get to room temperature so that you can roll it out. All right, I'm gonna kick that up one notch. Oh, and of course, I'm using my spatula in a running machine. Don't look, don't call OSHA on me. Don't try this at home, I am a professional. Okay, so just the same way, we still have, I try to be consistent for you guys, so it's still the same process. Cream that butter and sugar together so that it gets pulverized and emulsified and creamed into this beautiful, luscious mixture that's now gonna seep into everything. But we're gonna get it to that point, we're gonna shut this off, and then we're gonna go over there and we're gonna grab our egg mixture, which is exactly the same. So far, this has all been our chocolate and our vanilla leading up to now have been exactly the same. Now while this is finishing, let me run over and grab our egg. All right, so we scrape down our sides. Ta-da! Scrape down those sides. And then remember, we're gonna add this cold egg to help bring all of that room temperature and now that melted sugar back together into this really fluffy, really nice, silky, luscious fluff, if you will, that's gonna then incorporate into all of our cookies. So when you're adding these two ingredients that are very different temperatures and very different textures, remember, go slow and incorporate them gently. Now in this, even though this is my chocolate recipe, I still included 4 teaspoons of butter vanilla emulsion. All right, kick that up a little bit, add some more egg. right, let's see here. How's everybody doing? Is everybody ready for those holidays? Are you guys baking your Christmas cookies? What are your traditions? What do you guys have going on? Let's see. Question, if I store the dough in a food saver bag, how long would you say it would be okay to keep in the freezer? Ooh, that's a very good question. So freezers depend on the quality of two things. One, how well your freezer is, because some freezers are good for 3 months for frozen goods, and really good chest deep freezers are good for 6 months. So you can do either or, but the better you insulate it, so freezer bags, food safe freezer bags are great. They're made for that. So the longer, the better quality you wrap it, the better quality your freezer, the longer you can keep it, if that makes sense. Oh, you're welcome for going. Somebody thank me for going live. You're welcome. This is great. I am so sorry. I hope I can get to all these questions. Let's see. Question. Not sure. Oh, somebody's mentioned treacle. Yes. Which is also sort of like a molasses, I believe. A lot of Europeans, Canadians, we don't use it a lot here in the US, but it does work very similarly to molasses. So treacle, we're going to be using corn syrup. 4 tablespoons, 1/4 of a cup of corn syrup. But you can also use, for all my Europeans, you can also use golden syrup. Golden syrup works just as well. Golden syrup. But in the US, we use corn syrup. All right. So this is going to be a little bit different, and this is where our process changes. So now I have all of that yummy, delicious, wonderful, fluffy egg that just finished out and tightened up and brought everything together. Now, because we are using cocoa powder isn't anything like dark flour. It acts completely different. It has totally different properties, different alkalinity. It is very different beast than the flour, even though we're incorporating it into with our flour because it's dry. It still doesn't act or behave exactly like a flour. It absorbs, only it absorbs a lot more than a flour would. So cocoa powder is different, and there are a million of them out there. You can use everything, and this recipe works with all of them. I've tried them all. So this particular recipe, my favorite, I have to say, I have found now is Dutch processed cocoa powder. And I'm using, I think it's Ghirardelli's right now in this recipe. And the reason why I'm using Dutch processed is because the way that they refine it, it captures more of the fat of the cocoa butter. And other, you know, like the Hershey's and the Special Darks don't necessarily have that level of fat still incorporated into. So let's say the Dutch processed, they say to use that for things like hot cocoa. Why? Because it's got more fat and it will melt into things better. Now, I'm using that cocoa powder, but cocoa powder still does not have the same properties, and it requires something else to kind of absorb a little more. Like either I would have to add way more fats. I tried doing that, but then as soon as they got hot, the cocoa powder would let them go and they would leach and they would melt and leak. So science to the rescue. Thus, instead, to offset how drying cocoa powder is, we add a 1/4 cup or 4 tablespoons of corn syrup, and it can be light corn syrup, or it could be dark, or it could be golden syrup for all of my European friends. Now we're gonna add the corn syrup so that it helps offset some of those weird properties of the cocoa powder that we added. So here goes, and we're gonna add this to our wet and incorporate it so that, remember, you want all of your ingredients to be in every bit of every little gram of your cookie. So the key to doing that is mixing everything really, really well. So I'm gonna add this, and this corn syrup is pretty close to the texture and very similar and room temperature. So I can add the whole thing, all at one time. Just like so, and then mix it together. Now you just have to mix this together until it's really good and incorporated. There's no set time. You're not looking for a certain texture. You're just looking for it to get whipped in there really good so that you basically get it in every bite of that flour. All right, that looks about good. Let's see here, we're gonna scrape down. Okay, now we're ready to do where we scrape everything down. We've got it all incorporated. All right, here we go. Okay, oh, let me switch to my larger spatula here. Now remember, I like to scrape it so that all those edges are a little bit cleaner and all of that dough, that pre-dough and fluff is down towards the middle of my bowl. See that? I try to push it all down towards the middle of my bowl so that when I add this mixture, it's going to encompass and go and like encase it all the way around. So, got that. Let me wipe off my fingers. Best tools ever. Now, in here, let's talk about this before we dump it in. I have, oh, let me make sure I get my measurements because this is where we start changing up things. So we have 850 grams of that all-purpose bleached flour, and we have 130 grams of that Dutch processed cocoa powder. Now remember, you can change that cocoa powder to whatever you want and it will completely change the flavor of your cookie. So, but the recipe's still the same, just weigh out the other portion of cocoa powder or a blend of your cocoa powder. So let's say you only had a little bit of one and a little bit of another, blend them together. This is yours. So even in those emulsions, if you wanted to do a chocolate almond, use your almond emulsion with your chocolate. If you wanted a mint chocolate, add those, add chopped up candies, add, that mint straight to it. But I also added to this, we have our I still put in 3 teaspoons, yes. Yep, I put in 3 teaspoons of baking powder and 1 teaspoon of kosher salt. Now, you have to take your whisk and you have to make sure that all of that leavening and all of that salt is completely incorporated throughout, as well as that cocoa powder. The more consistently it's mixed in here, the more consistently it will mix into your other ingredients, thus creating consistent cookies. So we're just gonna dump this all the way in. It's gonna go all around, just like that. We're gonna put all our Tupperware off to the side here. I give it a shake. just because it helps get it settled around that mound that we made in the middle. We're gonna lower this, lock your bowl so it doesn't come flying up on you. We're going to get a piece of our cling wrap. Now remember, if you're just now joining me, I'm not wasting this. Don't come after me for using plastic. I'm going to use this exact same piece of plastic to wrap my dough up in and rest it. So you lock your little edges, you make your little skirt, wrap it around. Let's put this back off to the side. Okay, now we start mixing, remember, low and slow. And of course it does fly up everywhere. So we're going low and slow and waiting to hear the whine. Remember, you're learning to read your machine and read what it's asking of you. So this one just asked me, I need more power, please. And kick it up to that higher just for a moment. All right, let's see here. Remember, we mix until it comes away from our sides. All right, very nice, very nice. All right, we put our plastic off to the side. Now remember, your bowl is gonna have all these little bits of flour and everything kicked up to the top because it was rolling around. So just take your hands, go under your bowl, just kind of brush it down, brush all that stuff back into your batch of cookies, because don't worry, we're about to knead it all back together. Lift up your lid, clean off your paddle. All right, there we go. Now, this dough does get a little bit stickier, but only in the beginning. As it sits, remember I told you that cocoa powder is a different beast. It's not going to behave exactly the same way as flour does in your recipes. So it takes a little bit of special care, but it takes, because we added that extra corn syrup to it, it takes a few seconds longer for it to kind of come together. But by the time you scrape it out, it's already almost there. So as you see, it's a little stickier. So I didn't get quite as clean of a bowl, but it will be. If I just kind of let it sit there for a few minutes, that would have come out pretty clean. But we also don't want to just sit here and, you know, go to the bathroom or something and wait for it. So I want to keep this going. So now I'm just going to knead it for a few minutes. And it's gonna do, as we go along, it's gonna do the exact same thing as all of our other doughs do. It's gonna start soaking in, and it's gonna come together. And my surface was a little sticky there, so from before. I have to admit, normally, I do this on top of a silicone mat, but for some reason I forgot to put it out here. So we're going to do the same thing where we knead it and knead it and knead it, but as this sits, it's going to become less and less sticky. Now, I told you chocolate's a different beast, so it's going to be a little bit stickier in the beginning, but as it sits, it'll become less and less sticky. Now you can see, yes, my hands are dirty, but if I were to wash my hands and start touching this again, they wouldn't have this stuck. So if we sit here, like let's say for instance, I just wipe my hands off and let it sit here. I'll show you. Let's take a, let's see, have you updated your cocoa powder? One you recommended dark Hershey's Special Dark. Currently you're recommending Ghirardelli. Yeah, I have lots of recommendations. Try them all. They're all good. They all give you a slightly different flavor. In the beginning, you remember, I mean, I made some of these recipes a few years ago, so, but they're all still the same sound recipe. I just may have changed what I'm trying now or doing for the demonstration, but you are welcome to try any of them. If you're somebody who really likes that bittery dark chocolate, go with that Special Dark, real rich. If you're somebody who likes a lighter fudge, go with maybe just the plain Hershey's chocolate. This one is Ghirardelli, and it is their Dutch processed, and I love it. And if I move this ever so slightly onto the clean part of my counter, you'll see it's no longer sticking to my hands at all. It's not sticking to my counter. It's only sticking because this was a bit soiled and a bit dirty. So now it's back to doing exactly what we want to see it do. I'm slamming it down. It's not sticking. All it's doing, just like that clay, is compacting, taking all of that air out of it, and improving that texture. So look, told you, it comes together nicely, just like we wanted. Ta-da! So now we take that piece of plastic that we're not wasting, I'm sure you could do a wax wrap if you really like being very environmentally conscious. Wax wraps work really good to hold your dough for a little bit until they are ready. So here we go. Get our dough wrapped up here. All right. And of course, let me hear it, my friends. What do we do when we are about to rest our dough? Smack that dough for good luck. Smack it. Smack it, smack it. Love it. All right. Chocolate dough done. So now we have all of this beautiful chocolate dough, and actually this ended up kind of covering, sticking to the paddle a little bit more, so I'm just going to rinse it real quick. But normally I have had this happen where I don't even have to rinse it off. I could just go straight to my gingerbread, and that little bit of chocolate wasn't going to make a bit of difference. But I had quite a bit of it left on my paddle. This little bit that's in my bowl, guess what? It's going right into my gingerbread. And ain't nobody gonna tell the difference. And that's what we do in the professional baking, is when you have high volume stuff, those little bits that are left over, unless they're really intrusive or weird flavor. I mean, come on. Gingerbread has lots of powerful flavors. So of course I'm doing that one last, because you wouldn't want, you know, all your spices and stuff kind of getting incorporated into the wrong dough. So let me use my bench scraper here. Give me 1 second. Next time I'll be a little better prepared for maybe this, making sure I have my silicone sheet on my granite and it doesn't make quite as a mess. Ooh, let me show you guys one of my tricks. So this is also a professional baking trick for any of you guys. This is a bench scraper. Now, I use this to cut off chunks of dough. I certainly use it in my bread making, but my favorite way to use it, and I'm gonna tell you right now, is to clean off my counter. Cause look, you take this and you scrape it, and I have one of those sinks that's right over here in my island. So it is the easiest cleanup ever to just scrape and go right into the sink. Ta-da! That's what I do. So I get that cleaned off so that we can now make our gingerbread. All right, let's get everybody put back together here. And then maybe I can talk to you guys a little bit more. Oops, there it is. All right, let's see. Now, I see a lot of questions about the ingredients that I used. Now, in the playback, I do describe and give you the measurements of every ingredient that I've been putting in. So if you've missed the measurement, you can do one of two things. You can either wait for the playback of this and watch it later, or you can go onto my YouTube channel, find that recipe, go into the description of that video, open the description, and you'll have all the ingredients listed in there for you guys. And a link to purchase an instant download, printable download of that recipe that includes the full description of the method and the instructions and the tutorial as well as the ingredients. So you can go about that a couple of different ways. You can either copy and paste from the description of that video, or you can go to my YouTube, or you can go to my Etsy shop and purchase an instant, it's very minimal, I think they're $1.99. Purchase an instant download just to get a Word document where it's very clearly written out for you, okay? So now let's see. Oh, people are saying, smack it. Why have you come after long time? Oh, I think that's probably why have I been MIA. Well, I have been busy this year. You know, sometimes in families, you know, this is something that I do. This whole online adventure, teaching you guys and sharing with you guys, came out of my true passion just for wanting to help make this easier for somebody else. I figure out ways that work for me, and by golly, if it's going to help make my life easier and give me less stress, I hope it helps somebody else. That's my only reason for doing this, is I just want a world where we're just encouraging each other. And who doesn't want more cookies in the world? Cookies make people smile. It's hard to frown at a cookie. Cookies are amazing, and baking is how we love people and how we give tangible evidence of our love. So I got into this. Well, this year, you know, life gave us a little bit of a side note where health issues forced us in our family to kind of shift focus just on our family for a while. But things are better, and hallelujah, thank you, God is good. We are now moving forward, and I get to come back to work and share with you guys a little bit more. And certainly during this break, my head's been swimming with things to do. So, and we've also been doing a lot of work on our Facebook group, the Cookie Tribe. So join us there if you're not already. And certainly if you're from the Facebook group, please join me on my YouTube channel, subscribe, become a VIP member, and get all of those fun interactions. So just to let you guys know, when you join that VIP tribe, I'm going to start sharing a lot more personal information, a little bit just my husband's planning on making some appearances and kind of helping me with some things. So this year there's going to be some really awesome stuff, and we're taking this in a whole new direction and just really having fun with it this year, okay? So stick with me. Thank you for coming back and waiting around for a long time. I think it's been almost a year since I've done a live. Let's see. Is there anything else in here that I can answer right away? It looks like probably not, but we'll keep going and let's move on to that holiday favorite. Who loves them some gingerbread? Oh, mwah, I love a good gingerbread. It doesn't even have to have icing. I love it just as it is. And maybe that's my old English roots, or, you know, I just love those spices. They say the holidays to me. So let's get started with our gingerbread. And our gingerbread has very different method to it, but also some similarities. So again, if you are looking for the recipe is, if you go on my YouTube channel, the recipe is under this no chill, no spread ginger cookie recipe. In the description of the tutorial, open the little box all the way up and you will see the entire typed out list of ingredients here. Now, for the process, if you want all the typed out method and process and instructions, you can follow the link over to my Etsy shop. And on there, I have, whether you want the entire collection of all of my recipes with a little QR that leads you right to the tutorial, or if you just want an individual recipe, instant download, super easy to read, easy to follow, then certainly you can do that too. So that's where you can find those, or you can always wait for the playback and just follow along as I'm telling you these ingredients and explaining why we're using what we're using. All right, on to our gingerbread. So for our gingerbread, don't hate me. Okay? I know, you guys, I'm gonna have some butter purists out there. Don't come after me. I do like vegetable shortening. This brand is Crisco, and it is the butter flavored Crisco. I didn't claim to be the healthiest baker. So, but I feel like, I've tried it with butter, but I feel like this shortening recipe just gives a great cookie. So I don't recommend substituting this vegetable shortening, and you don't have to use the buttered flavor. I just like it. Why not? I like the buttered flavor shortening. So we're gonna use, this is, I guess technically it's 1 cup. Yeah, it's 1 cup. So 1 block, 1 cup of shortening. And that, of course, is at room temperature. You don't keep shortening in the refrigerator. It's shelf stable as is. So we're gonna put the shortening in there, and then we have different ingredients. So this is gonna be a little different. This one only calls for white sugar because instead of using brown sugar, we're gonna use the solid ingredient that actually makes brown sugar brown, molasses. Now, I do not recommend using the black strap molasses. I feel like black strap molasses is a little too bitter for cookies. I just personally don't like it in my cookies. It almost gives them that burnt taste. It was a little too far to the side for my liking. So I use just regular grandma's molasses, just like that. Now, we're gonna add our sugar. Now this time, I'm gonna go ahead and add the molasses so that it gets creamed into, and I'm trying to emulsify the sugars in this syrup into the fat that is that vegetable shortening. So, add these two together, just like so, with that shortening, buttered flavored shortening, and that granulated sugar, that 1 cup of sugar. And we're gonna do the same thing where we're creaming this together, just like we've done with our actual butters and sugars. Now this time we're just using the shortening, but I promise you, you'll like it. And if you don't, guess what? There's a million recipes out there so different. All right, that is mixing good. There we go. We're gonna get that all incorporated together. Now, what I did differently is we're still going to let this cream, and then I'm gonna still add my cold egg to it. Now, in that egg, I don't have emulsion because I don't use any kind of butter, vanilla, or anything like that in my gingerbread. I am a purist. I really, really, really like just those spices to come forward and to come forefront. And in here, so while we're waiting for that, oh, let's see, hold on. I will also, let me go get because it looks like this creams together pretty quickly because of that molasses. So let me kick that up just a little bit higher, and let me go grab our cold egg. Looking good, looking good. Scrape down. Oop. Don't look, OSHA, don't look. Safety first. I'm a rebel. I do my own thing. All right, so let's get this turned off. Oh, I don't need to turn it off. What am I doing? Turn it on slow. Now we have our egg. Now we have 120 grams of egg. We're going to add that slowly. There we go. Now we're going to really, really, really let that come together. Now I'm going to blend it up. Now I did get asked what my weight is for my sugar. Now, brown sugar, notoriously, just like flour, it's kind of weird. Like you can't scoop it out sometimes, but sometimes you can. But I've really gotten different results. The truth is, with my sugars, I use volume for those, a 1 cup measurement. But if you just Google what the equivalent is, it will be enough, I promise. You just kind of look on there. But I'm not exactly sure what the weights are, but I do know you can go by weight. All right, here we go. But the sugar, so the sugar doesn't come packed and doesn't do the really crazy weird volume differences that flour does. So I'm not quite as sketchy on whether or not you need to measure out your sugar with a scoop or with weight. Like I said, I use my 1 cup measuring scoop just for my sugars. That's probably that and the teaspoons are the only thing that I really use scoop measurements for. Everything else I'll weigh out. All right, so we added that molasses. We added 1 cup of shortening, 1 cup of sugar, which is about 200 grams. We added half a cup of molasses, which is roughly 160 grams. Light or dark molasses, but not blackstrap. We added 2 large cold eggs, like I said. Make sure they're about 120 grams. They can be a little bit under, but some are right around there. Now, we whip this until it is just so light and pretty. I'm going to scrape this down. Now, when you get to this point with gingerbread, it is definitely a little softer. So you can see, oh, let me get my bigger spatula. It is much thinner. You can see. More like a thin paste. So now we're going to add, I scraped down my bowl, made my mound in the middle, and now I'm going to add, this is my mixture. Oh, where'd my whisk go? Here it is. So this is my mixture of flour, baking powder, baking soda, and salt, and all of my spices. So let's go over the portions. I have 635 grams of all-purpose bleached flour, half a teaspoon of baking powder, half a teaspoon of baking soda, half a teaspoon of salt, kosher salt. And now for the spices. I personally put this quantity in this recipe. You get to put your own. Cinnamon, spice, you get to measure with your heart. So if you want to try it as is and decide whether or not that's a little much or you need more, tweak it. It's your recipe now. Do what you want with it. Play around. But remember what I said, when you mix it, if you want consistent cookies, make sure you mix all of those leavenings. Now, because this has that molasses in it and all these spices, it needs that baking soda because of the acidities with it, and it makes them a little more alkaline. So it's the science of baking. Just know that these ingredients need a little balance, so we add a little bit of the puff and a little bit of the spread, but it's more for the chemical makeup, not necessarily for what it's going to do to the texture of our cookie. Now that we have this fully incorporated together, we're going to dump this all in, just like so. We are going to put it on here, put the paddle down, grab our plastic wrap that we will repurpose to wrap it so that it doesn't blow up all over us. So here is our wrap that we will reuse later to wrap it up in. All right, make your little skirt so that your flour doesn't go up and out all over the place. There's that. Lock your bowl down and start low and slow. Oh goodness, guys, I didn't tell you the spices. I'm so sorry. Let's see. Oh, and nobody even called me out on it. Hey, all right. So into my dry ingredients that I had here, Hold on. Let's see here. I had some flour stuck on the side of the bowl. Let me make sure it all gets down in there. Sorry. There we go. One thing at a time. I'll tell you about the spices I used in 1 second here. Okay, so the spices that I use, the quantity that I like, I use 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, 2 teaspoons of ground ginger, half a teaspoon of ground clove, and just a quarter of a teaspoon of nutmeg. Be gentle on your nutmeg. It has a soapy taste to it if you go too far. Gentle on the nutmeg. So, those are the portions. I like a good clove taste. I love my cinnamon. And to be honest, I'm a little extra. I love cinnamon so much. I use 2 different kinds. So I use the classic, less expensive cinnamon, and then I also use Ceylon cinnamon, which is from Sri Lanka. That just has a lighter, sweeter flavor, but it's much more expensive. So this recipe calls for 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. So I will actually use 1 of each because they both have different profiles and different tastes to them. So I like all of those cinnamons kind of mixed together. All right, so now we can turn this dough out and see what we have. Let's see, now this dough's a little, it looks like it's stuck a little bit too because I didn't, my bowl had all that chocolate kind of residue in it and it was a little stickier. So this one kind of stuck to the sides too, but it's not a big deal. Like you saw with the chocolate, once we're done with it, it won't be sticky. And certainly before we put it to bed to rest for our hour up to 3 hours while we're busy doing other things, cleaning or getting our trays ready to bake on, or cookie cutters, picking out our cookie cutters. What we'll do is we'll let that rest and it will continue to soak together and just really continue to bring out that luscious texture. That beautiful texture that holds its shape, that doesn't give you problems in the oven, doesn't misshapen as you're trying to transfer it from your parchment over to your cookie sheet. Just trying to get all of that together. There we go. Ta-da! Now, we're gonna knead this just like we did our other doughs. Now, if you notice, my gingerbread recipe doesn't yield quite as much as the others. And I could have doubled this recipe for everyone, but to be honest, it then made it kind of too massive and I felt like it was too much to work with, so we kind of kept it this size instead. But I was gonna make this huge, massive dough just like my other ones, but it's a little less. So you won't get quite as many cookies with this gingerbread as you would with your butter vanilla and with my chocolate recipe, but certainly, what did I tell you? You can double it, you can quadruple it. This is doing the same thing where as it's kneading, it's getting stuck to my countertop because I didn't put my trusty silicone mat down. That's okay. But you can already see it's becoming less and less sticky. Now what happens is all that moisture is getting soaked into every bit of that flour and it's just turning into more of like a putty, a clay, a paste, dough, Play-Doh. Like your cookie dough should feel like Play-Doh. You shouldn't break off pieces and it be mushy. Let me rinse my hands real fast. Please forgive me. I want to be able to get this all together for you. It may require me moving this from that sticky spot I've accumulated right there. But again, I'm just gonna slam it down, just like a potter throwing clay in a pottery wheel. You're slamming all of that structure tightly together so that everything leaches and melts and soaks in close together and gets that consistency. That's what we're looking for. And you see, I'm working the heck out of this dough. Do you think I'm afraid of making it tough? No, because right now it's moving and it's not gonna go crazy on you. Ta-da! There we go, scrape off my counter, put this back together. Look, and now no stick. Coming together just like a little nice ball. And you can see as you're going along and as you slam it down and as you're kneading it, it becomes smoother and smoother. Can you see that? How smooth that is? Look how pretty. Look, and not sticky at all. Not at all. That's what my recipe doughs should be doing for you. That's why I made them like this, so they won't give you a lot of problem. But he needs to rest too, so let's get him shaped back up here. Like so. Get our trusty piece of plastic that we are not wasting. Bring it out like that. We're gonna wrap this dough up. Just like so. All right. Woo! And yes, it can be doubled. Yes, it can be doubled. Now, what do we do? What do we gotta do? You must smack it real good for good luck. Now, my doughs are gonna sit over here for probably an hour, hour and a half while I get all this production stuff cleaned up, get my house unstaged, and sit there and maybe go over some of your questions that you had along the way that I did not get to. But here we have, now you can see, even just as this has been sitting, oh my God, this is stiffened up. So it is like really good clay or Play-Doh now. It's no longer that softy dough. And even, oh my goodness, even in just the time this chocolate's been sitting there, it's firmed right up. All of that good stuff is just soaked right into that. And this little guy will do the same. And I'm sorry, you can double him so that he's bigger like the other ones. Like so. Here, let's stack our babies. All right, how about let's do a double smack. And our little guy up here for our ginger. So, what do you guys think? Here's our 3 basic doughs that I make just about everything from. Now guys, I do this truly just for the pure joy of doing it. I have my tools that I innovated because I needed them, and so I figured somebody else might. So I have no other agenda, but certainly I'd be remiss if I didn't say, if you wanted to send me a gift, there's ways on here to send me a little prize or a little thank you. You're more than welcome to do that. That's always appreciated. Thank you. Or certainly there is subscribe and become a VIP member. You can thank me that way. But if you like the content that I'm making and you still want me to continue, send me those little fun gifts and thank yous, and let me know what else you guys want to learn about. Let me know if there's something that I can do to improve for you guys. But today, I hope you like this a little bit more casual. Hardly put on, all I have on is some mascara. Didn't even do my face makeup. Got very little jewelry on, just keeping it easy and simple. This is what I look like when I wake up in the morning and I go to bake. So this is the real deal. I'm hoping certainly this year you're gonna get, if you subscribe to our VIP, or if you subscribe to my personal stuff, or follow me personally, Pamela Dean Kennedy, on my Facebook page, then certainly we're going to be doing a little bit more fun stuff, a little more candid stuff. I'm going to be talking about my life, maybe giving you a tour of my home. You know, we'll just have a little bit more fun. You'll get to see my husband, who is also in the baking industry, but more on the corporate end, and is retiring this year. So I'm very excited. He's excited to kind of make cameos, help me out. He is a wealth of information. He knows a heck of a lot more than I do about the industry. I'm more the artist and he is definitely the businessman. So I'm looking forward to incorporating him into this as well. But thank you guys. Thank you for being on this journey with me. You guys are probably the best community out there. I'm on a lot of groups. I have a lot of interests and a lot of hobbies. And a lot of these Facebook groups sometimes just get so snarky and rude and mean. And these keyboard people just decide to blast people and think they're somehow educating us on wrongs we had no idea we were missing. And I hate that. I really do. It's ugly. This world has enough ugliness, especially recently. How about some grace? How about some love? How about sharing what you know? Don't be a gatekeeper of information. If you have something that can help somebody else, share it. All your beautiful cookies you're afraid to share, go on the Cookie Tribe and share them. Make a post. Tell us your process. Did you have fun making them? Were they a pain in the butt? Tell us. Let us know. Our best interactions come from you guys. I'm just a facilitator. I just brought us together. But you guys are our tribe, and it's our community that makes us amazing. I can't tell you how many personal DMs I get daily about how this group has helped them, their grandchildren, their siblings, their children, their grandchildren figure out or enjoy baking for the first time, or to rekindle a previous love for baking. So there's lots of us creators out there. We are not a one size fits all. Learn from all of us, but ask questions. I'm literally here for you to do this, to help. I love doing this, and I love teaching, and I love sharing. So thank you for being on this journey with me. Please, if you have not already, join that VIP group to get all of my little neat tips and tricks, and to get that personal insight into my private life, and maybe a little bit more into our personal life here, and follow me socially. But like, subscribe, drop those little gifts if you want, if you are feeling squirrely enough. Thank you. But I love you guys, and please, thank you for making this community what it is, and a community that I want to continue being a part of. So, all right, guys. Well, I think that's about all I have for now. I'm going to follow back up on here and I will take a look at a lot of these questions and make sure if there were any that I missed that we really truly answer those questions for you. So keep them coming, refer back to these, and just so you know, our live portion is going to be over now, but I will record rolling out these doughs and I will turn them into fun either shorts or tutorials or clips for later use. So stay with us. You will see the finish of all of these cookies that are going for a wonderful cause for our retirement that's happening in our household. So we couldn't be more excited and more proud of Rob. So I guess that's it, guys. Thank you for being here. I know it's been a hot minute, but it's been a lot of fun doing this a little bit more casual style and a little bit more like, yeah, this is just me in the kitchen. This is what you get. Thank you guys. You're amazing, and I love you.